Good morning, I'm Jerry. Yesterday I spoke about who Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John were and describing, their background. Why did I speak just about those? It's because of the gospel. Now, what is the gospel? I say these things because a lot of people have not opened the Bible, they've never read it. They hear little bits and pieces, they hear weird expressions, they don't understand. They don't understand the whole language, really. So the gospel is nothing more than a testimony of the birth of Jesus and the fulfillment of prophecy from the Old Testament. So in the Old Testament, there were prophets, and they prophesied about the coming of a Messiah. And if memory serves me correctly, from the Old Testament and the New Testament, there was like a period of around 400 years that God was silent to Israel. They didn't have any more prophets. They didn't, God had basically said, I've said it. Not in those words, but so anyhow. So the reason for the gospel is it's if you study the Old Testament and then read the gospel, you will see there's fulfillment of the prophecy. Okay. Now I remember first reading through it, and I just thought, okay, interesting story, and I didn't question it, but part of it, to understand what you're reading, it helps to understand the background or the backstory, what's going on at the time. So at the time, Israel had been conquered by the Romans, and they were under oppression. And I don't mean like this fake oppression you hear people whining about on social media about somebody who doesn't believe in their political whatever. I'm talking these people were under real oppression. So, oh boy, they were really looking for Messiah, but the Messiah they wanted, they were looking for, come in and kick ass and take names later and all that kind of stuff, that kind of Messiah. And the reason that the majority of the Jewish people didn't accept Jesus as the Messiah because he wasn't that. And so what they failed to see was Jesus was providing a means for the people to be saved. And that was the Messiah then. Now the Messiah they were looking for, that's going to be the second coming. But it's not to kick the Romans out. It'll be a whole different situation. But with that understanding, and I can't give you enough in a couple-minute video. You have to go and read and study it for yourself. But if you understand that backstory, and there's more to it, obviously, then as you read through the gospel, it will begin to make sense. And so, but the real key to this too is understanding that the Jewish people, they knew approximately when the Messiah was to come, and they knew the lineage. That's why, like, when you read through the gospel, like Matthew, he talks about the lineage all the way down to Jesus to show the legitimacy of who Jesus was. And so these people were looking for the Messiah. So, for example, in Matthew chapter 2, verse 1 through 2, or verse 1 and 2, sorry. Now when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying, they're speaking to King Herod, or Herod the king, whatever, saying, where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east and are come to worship him. Now, the king didn't like hearing this because the king was the king, and he didn't want somebody like taking over his, throne. But anyhow, so the point being with that is they were looking, and they knew around when to be looking for. So there was all these signs, but to understand it all, you seriously have to study the Old Testament and then read through the New Testament, and especially the gospel. So These next few days, I'm just trying to lay some foundational storyline without having to go through tons and tons of scripture. You can do that yourself. Take the time to do it. You'll be surprised and pleasantly educated. There you go. Anyways, I love you. Have a great day.